you so much for joining me. Hopefully you are feeling well, still staying safe, and things are going well in your life, or as well as can be expected. Right, you're taking time for yourself, you're practicing self-love, and you are practicing the ultimate self-care of doing yoga. And so if you're watching this, that means that you are here to do some yoga. And so this will be a fun little flow, nothing too big of a deal, but there will be a little bit of a flow element. I've got blocks to support me. I've got a blanket in order to cushion me. I've got something to drink. And so once you have all the things you need, settle in on your breath. So this is where you start to unhook from all that's going on in the world. You unhook from everything that's going on in your world, all of the things with work and family, as much as you can. Really try to set that aside so you can connect to your breath. Practice that connection so you feel comfortable, just you and your breath. And you don't have to do anything other than just pay attention to your breath. If you are having a hard time unhooking and letting your thoughts settle in on that breath, take your time. Really pay attention to how the inhale fills up your lungs, and then the exhale, the breath leaves your lungs. So pay attention to that expansion and that contraction, that basic process of your breath coming in and out of your body. And after you sit here for a few moments, hopefully your breath is filling out, it's getting deeper, fuller. And remember, you're breathing any way that feels comfortable to you, whether it be through your nose or your mouth or a combination of your nose and mouth. Make sure that you're comfortable in your body at any time. If your legs start to feel tingly, your feet start to feel tingly, take time to arrange yourself. If you bring your legs a little bit further away from your body, it allows for that better circulation. It also creates that wider, bigger base. Keeping your awareness on your breath, that's the only thing you need to pay attention to. You think it'd be easy, but it's not, because you get bored with doing that, so then your mind wanders. And that is okay. That's exactly how it happens. Just bring your awareness back to your breath and how it feels. Filling up, start to build that three-part yoga breath where you fill up the lower third of your lungs, then the middle third, then the upper third, and then you release fully, upper, middle, lower. So you are starting to build a three-part yoga breath. It's just a little bit more to keep you attached and aware of your breath. And when you start to get comfortable with that three-part yoga breath there in your lungs, start to let it get fuller and deeper as you fill up the lower third. Press your navel into the space in front of you. That middle third, feel those ribs move up and apart, and then the breath goes into the upper third. Feel your heart move up in your chest. And then you exhale, heart and chest release. Ribs move down and together, and then you pull that navel back and up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you fill up navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. Let that full deep breath, that rhythm of the breath, keep you anchored in your body, which is in the present moment. And you are practicing being an observer. You're witnessing, not trying to be a harsh judge of good or bad, and just become aware. You're also moving through this yoga session, you're the ultimate teacher of yourself, and so you're the only one that knows exactly how it feels to be in your body. So everything that I'm offering you is merely a suggestion, and it's there for you to take or not. All right, on your next inhale, press down into your mat. Feel that connection to the floor, the building, the ground, the building's built into, and then the world that connects us all. So think about engagement, or actively bring a squeeze to your glutes. Press your knees away, flex your feet, really press down with your whole body that's closest to the floor, and feel that support, that anchoring in, that's all coming from within. And then on your next exhale, lift yourself up out of that place of connection, stretch yourself into that space around you that you are meant to take up. So you think about engagement, or you actively press yourself up. Crown of the head, tops of the ears closer to the sky, but yet notice this gentle pressure on the tops of your shoulders that lengthens the space at your neck, and still you're breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. So you lift that heart and then pull those blades, gently tuck them down and together. You're not squeezing them so they're squeezing together, but they're definitely engaged and pulled down and tucked in. And you start to see how the back body is supporting the front body. And your awareness is residing somewhere between the front and the back body, inside of you, somewhere right behind your navel, in front of your tail. Breathing full and deep. Let your breath help keep you anchored in the present moment, help keep you anchored in your body. Notice how you are always finding that support from within, and then also that lift from within. Let your hands make their way to your heart, and then let yourself reach up above your head. Keep those shoulder girdles engaged. Don't hyperextend any joints as a stretch starts to happen in your upper body as you reach, pull down into your heart center. A couple more times. Inhaling. Exhaling. Let yourself reach a few more, really feeling that stretch. And then you can pause. You're going to unwind those legs, especially if you've had them in the same position for a little bit. Let those knees be bent. Drop those legs side to side, starting to wake up. Taking care of yourself, always making sure that you aren't letting those feet get too tingly, always moving before they do. Letting those knees fall side to side. Inhale and exhale. And then let those legs lengthen down, coming into that seated position. Your legs are really bent because this is still really early in the class. So keep those knees bent. Press through those heels. Stay lifted up off your sitting bones. So practice that lift of your front body, and then that pressing down of your back body, and really try to feel yourself in your trunk. And then depending on how it feels in your arms, either go wide or go right up your head, or just reach forward, right? Maybe you don't want to reach over, but you do want to practice the hinge, because that's what you're practicing here. Inhaling and exhaling. Keep trying to find that connection, and then that reach from that connection. Try to keep those girdles engaged. That's always tilting your pelvis up. That's always lifting your heart. Breathing full and deep. It's bringing those shoulder blades down. It's bringing that tail down. All right, the next time you're reaching forward, pause. Hands are reaching wherever feel comfortable. It doesn't have to be all the way to your toes. Try to stay with that sensation of that forward fold where you are reaching into the forward fold. This means your upper body is coming towards your lower body. So if you really got to bend your knees in order to get your body there, then do that. That is totally cool. Inhale and exhale, and then let yourself release from that. Once again, bend those knees and let yourself reset back and forth. Breathing full and deep, and then bring the soles of the feet together. You're in charge of how close those legs, those feet are to your body, and then it can be a reach up or just a reach forward. We're still hinging. Now you are actively pressing those knees away. Keep flexing those feet so you're active from the glute, from the hip girdle down to the foot, even though the feet or the legs are turned in this way. And like I said, you're in charge of how close they are. You're going to get a different sensation. Still try to find that length of your upper body and then that grounding down of your back body. The front and the upper is always lifting up. The back and the lower is always pressing down. All right, then let yourself come up and fold those legs together, and then take your time to come around onto your hands and knees. And if you want to bring a blanket down, which I always recommend, because you do not want to hurt your knees, have that blanket come right underneath your body, and then press yourself back. I'm going to go ahead and take my socks off. It'll just be easier. I like to do yoga sockless when standing, and that's where we're going to be eventually. So if you are still not taking your socks off, I really recommend it. Try it. All right, but right now we're pressing back in child. Sorry for that little detour. You are setting yourself up into your child. Even though child is a rest, it's an active rest, right? This whole thing, this whole yoga session, all of the parts are very important, and even the rest is important, but you want to make sure that you are supporting yourself in that rest. So you're always engaging that lower girdle, pulling that tail down, tilting that pubic bone up to that clock that is at your front body there. The navel is 12, the pubic bone is 6, and then right where your legs, where the hip flexors are your 9 and 3. That's always in a place of, it's always in a place of evenness. It's always parallel and squared. Breathing full and deep. And you might not feel it here in child, what I'm talking about, but hopefully when you come up and engage in table, so take your time coming up, this is where you bring those knees right underneath your hips. You set yourself up for support. Hands underneath those shoulders. Spread those fingers wide and try to bring more of the weight to the top part of your hand, not so much the wrist. Pull that tail down. Do a few pelvic tilts as you find that place in that lower back. This is like a cat and cow in just your lower back. I am really exaggerating it. It doesn't have to be this big of a move, but you're going to pull yourself into that place of support with that low back so you are protected. Navel up, pubic bone up, tail down, and then you are doing a few little cat and cows with your shoulder blades together and then pulling apart. They're always engaged, always pulling out of your ears. You're not hyperextending those elbows, and then you're pausing in that place of support. Low back and upper back are in support, and then your cat and cow is in the middle back. Start to move with that awareness of holding yourself in those upper girdles, and let the flow happen there in that middle back. Your middle back gets no love. I'm trying to help you protect your low back. I'm trying to help you give that low back a vacation. We spend too much time in low back doing way too many things in the low back that don't even need to be in the low back. And it wasn't until I came to yoga that I even realized that. So that is what I am passing on to you. All right, you're going to pause in your neutral position. So this is that nice flat back where you are engaged. You're holding yourself right behind your navel, in front of your tail. That is your very center of gravity. And actually, it's not just right there, right? It's kind of like a big circle. It also comes up by your heart. And so you can think that whole front body and that back body. Find yourself in awareness in between your front and back body, and then also your side body. Send your right leg back. Keep those balls down, those hips square to start with. Let yourself rock just a few times. Back and forth over those arms. Keep your front body square to the mat. Keep your back body square to the ceiling. Inhaling and exhaling. Keep lengthening the crown of your head towards where the wall is in front of you. Pause in your rocking. Let that right leg, let it float up. Keep that heel just in line with that hip. Keep squaring that front body and that back body. It is hard to do. As you lift that left limb, that left arm, you are breathing full and deep. Keep those shoulders engaged. You want to keep squaring anything. That right leg has a tendency to float out to the right. You got to pull it into the midline. You got to really think about it. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. And then you're going to bring that right leg down, that left arm down. You're going to rest back completely in that child. So you might want to pull your legs apart a little bit so you've got room. Make sure that you are taking drinks as you need them, pausing for hydration. Inhaling and exhaling. And then take your time, lift up into that stable table. Remember, it makes all the difference that you are lining up those joints so you are holding yourself in that place of support. Now, I led with the left leg, or the right leg, but if you actually started with the left leg, make sure you just manage that. I am now pressing that left leg back. I'm on that left ball, and I am keeping everything square, the front body square to the mat, the back body square to the ceiling as I am rocking over those arms, holding myself in this is all happening from that place there behind your navel, behind your heart, in front of your tail, in front of your blades, right in the middle of you. And then you're going to pause, let that left heel float up as high as that left hip, and then stay with that feeling of lift. Reaching that opposite limb, that right arm reaches. So don't hyperextend that arm that's holding you up. Inhale and exhale. Keep trying to square. It takes a lot of awareness. And then bring yourself down into your child to rest once again in that active rest. Use those blocks. That just adds a nice extra layer, a nice extra dimension to the stretch. I still am never hyperextending any of my joints. I'm always being really careful to engage those girdles. Front and back and side body all working together. Inhale and exhale. And then lift yourself up. Remember, you're in charge of how long you hold anything and how long you want to be in anything. We're going to come into that downward dog. Keep holding yourself in your trunk. Get that engagement. Keep those shoulders out of your ears. Don't hyperextend the elbows. Keep the knees really bent. Lift yourself up into that downward dog and move however feels good to you. Playing around with coming up on your toes, really bending your knees. I like to shift my weight from the right side to the left side. I am still lifting up with my trunk right there behind my navel. This took me a long time to figure out. Like, you have to really think about it. Where's your navel right now? Like, be in your navel. Keep lifting. Feel how you lift up. So if you don't feel like it's even between your arms and your legs, then maybe walk your stance in a little bit. Remember to find yourself on your balls, not your toes. The toes are really just there to look pretty, not to do a lot of work. Keep those knees bent. Keep breathing. Keep those girdles engaged. Keep pulling those blades down and tucking them in, but not squeezing them together. And then take your time. Either walk to the front of your space or come down to hands and knees and step up from that forward fold position, or up into that forward fold position, finding yourself on those feet. Here's where you play around a little bit. Play around with coming up on the balls and toes, back on the heels. Make sure you're using support. So you should feel a little bit between coming forward on into a somersault and then falling back on your ass. You're finding yourself somewhere in the middle of that. Keep those knees bent. Let yourself, once you find that support, really, really let yourself move however feels good. This is as much or as little as feels good to you. And I'm telling you, the more you bend your knees and the more you find that stability first, the better the stretch is. Eventually, you're going to be done. You're going to be in that forward fold. Make sure that that lower body is active and ready to support you. That's where you're putting all the weight. So keep those knees bent in order to find that place that supports you the most on your next inhale. Halfway, flat back. Really put the weight in that back body, lifting with that heart, pulling those blades down. Exhale, you're going to come into that forward fold. And so here's where I do lift up a little bit, let those legs lengthen. You might not want to. It really just depends. I like to reach for blocks. I find it helps really support me in the stretch. And eventually you're going to be ready for that halfway, flat back. Really put that weight in that back body. Really hold those hearts lifted, those blades down. Exhale, down for the floor. The next time we're going to come up into that reverse swan dive, unless you're like, no thanks. If you don't want to swan dive it, then come up halfway, flat back, hands to above your knees. Keep that bent knee position as you press yourself up into that squat position, and then stand up, pressing through those legs. Still not hyperextending, only reaching into as much back bend as feels good to you. It feels good here to keep those girdles engaged, so keep engaging that tail. Keep pulling those hip flexors up and lock them into place so that hip girdle is in place, and then pull that heart up and those blades down to protect your shoulders. And then your hands come to your heart, belly, one of each, out to the side, and you find your mountain. You're finding yourself somewhere towards the front of your space. Your feet are just hip distance apart. You're finding the balance between the balls and the heels. Keep those, plug in then your balls and heels. Think tripod or four corners. Lift your piggies, reach them forward, and then try to bring them down one piggy at a time. Doesn't matter if you start with the little piggy to the big piggy or the big piggy to the little piggy. You are just practicing that. Your toes are never really doing that much work. They're just barely gripping. Kneecaps up into your thighs, and then here's where your thighs, your legs, plug right into that lower trunk. Here's where you really hold yourself. You lock yourself into position. You get that tail down, those hip flexors up. It's your girdle. It is engaged from front to back, and it is holding you. Think navel, dimples down. Solid. You're pressing through those heels, staying lifted with those kneecaps. And then keeping that awareness on both the stability and the support. Feel that lift and that length up out of it. That is the magic. Heart lifts up to the sky, shoulder blades down and gently tucked together. You are always bringing the crown of your head and your tail in two separate directions. And don't just think about stretching north-south here in this mountain. Think about also stretching east-west to the right-left. So take up all that space in that power pose and feel it. Practice this. Feel yourself engage those girdles. So you hold yourself. It takes all the strain out of your low back. And this is a combination of muscle and framework engagement. You have to be able to work your girdles as a unit and then also separate unit. And that is what you're looking to connect to as you move. All right, stay with that awareness. Reach into as much of a back bend as feels good. Let yourself flow into that forward fold. Lift up halfway, flat back. Come back down and step back into that plank, knee down plank, or you can also come to table and just down to your belly. You're releasing down into your cobra, or you're up your belly and then up to your cobra, your up dog. You're in charge. This is not the low back doing this work. It is all in those glutes. And then you lift yourself up into your downward dog, or press yourself up into your downward dog. Inhale and exhale. Here's where you lift that right leg. So make sure that you are supported. You've got that left leg where it needs to be. Take your time. Use your hands on floor or blocks. Smear that left foot down so you're going to keep that right knee bent. It's like you're on railroad tracks still, but that foot is smeared down and you are lifting into your crescent lunge. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. Hands come down by your sides. You're taking your time back into the runner's lunge. You are stepping back. You are moving through that flow down to the belly, lifting up. Of course, if you don't want to, you don't have to. And then coming to that downward dog. Take your time. I like to step up that right leg, lift that left leg, coming into that three-legged dog. Bring that left foot forward. Remember, you can be doing this through hands and knees. Smear down. Make sure you are steady and lift and hold for 2 breaths. Keep trying to square your front body and your back body, and then bring yourself down into that runner's lunge to step back. Moving through the flow. Of course, if you would rather skip the flow, you totally can. You're going to get a break here. After you reach into downward dog becomes your active rest. And then we're still going to go down for more active rest after your heart rate comes down a little bit, couple breaths, and then make your way into that active rest with the child resting completely. So doing a little reset, inhaling and exhaling, staying with your breath. If it feels difficult, remember that your breath can help you move through the poses. Don't lose connection to your breath. Make sure that you're hydrating. Make sure you're always taking care of yourself. And then it's going to be back up into your downward dog. Or, of course, it can be table to bring that right foot up between your hands. You are really in charge. We're going to come into that warrior 1 to lift. So you smear down and then open up to that warrior 2. So you might want to move those legs a little bit wider apart. And make sure that you've got room, that you're not going to boop your head off the front, whatever the front of your mat is. All right, but we're going to get there. Reach those arms wide into your warrior 2. Keep bending that front knee. You should try to feel that. Try to feel that connection between the inside of your knee, inside of that left hip flexor, and stretch away. That knee has a tendency to go towards the big toe. You have to keep trying to work it towards the pinky toe. And then bring your awareness to the pinky toe side of that left foot. I want you to feel yourself from the pinky toe sides all the way up to the tippy top. And then you're stretching from the center. You're staying with that awareness as you hinge into that side angle. So you bring yourself down, that elbow can rest, or that hand can come down, that right hand can come down, that left arm reaches up, breathing full and deep. Keep breathing, inhaling and exhaling, and then lift yourself up, flip that palm, keep that right knee bent as you float into that reverse warrior 2. Stay with that breath. Then you are lifting yourself with your center as you lengthen that right leg. Stay with that awareness of navel, dimples down, solid base. And then once again, you are hinging into that triangle position. Inhale and exhale. And then here's where you're going to play around where, and don't take yourself too seriously. And remember, I don't want you to hurt yourself. But you want to get that right leg. I'm going to bring it so I don't hit my head on this wall and I stay within the frame. So that right leg is what you're going to stand on. And you're going to bring yourself up over into that balancing half moon. Yes. So keep lifting up off that right leg. Don't hyperextend. Press through that left heel. You're pressing through both heels. And then that left arm is reaching up. Pay attention to your head. Is it going down to the ground or is it pulling towards where the wall and the ceiling? And we're not done playing because I want you to stay aware of your front and back bodies and squaring. Now I want you to turn and square to the floor with your front body, and so I'm using the blocks. I'm still pressing through that back heel. That leg likes to get rowdy. You have to keep pulling it into the midline, and then I'm going to lift that right arm. I'm keeping that shoulder blade engaged, and then the right hand is coming down and playing around with coming into that standing split. So you're coming into that forward fold with that upper body and that right leg as you lift that left leg, and then you are bending that front knee and letting those toes come down, letting yourself be in that runner's lunge to then step back into that plank, knee down plank or table. Move through the flow. If you don't want to move through a flow, of course you don't have to. You can go right to your downward dog or right to your child. Be in that downward dog for 2 to 3 breaths. That marinating there in between, that to me is just, it's like chef's kiss. It is like everything. It feels so amazing. Hopefully you feel it too. All right, we've got that other side to do. You're in charge of how you bring that left leg forward. We came into that warrior one. Lifting up, make sure that you feel supported, and then open up into your warrior two, breathing full and deep. So all the same stuff. Pull that tail down. Lift those hip flexors. So front body always coming up. Back body always going down. And you are stretching from your center. We're going to reach into that side angle. This is a hinge to that left leg. Keep trying to pull that right glute down. Keep trying to rotate that right hip flexor up so you get that engagement. This is where you start working. This is one of the poses where they're working as a unit, but they're also working separately. All right, lift yourself up, flip, come into that reverse warrior. Take your time here. Make sure you're steady. You're lifting with your center to lengthen that front leg. And then you are hinging once again. So this is solid base. Navel dimples down. Solid base. And then you're hinging into that triangle. Keep trying to keep your whole front body square to the long edge. So square to the front of your long edge. And your whole back body is now square to the back, the square of the long edge behind you. And then you are playing around with not booping your head, coming onto that left leg, taking your time and playing around with coming into balancing half moon. You are not taking yourself too seriously, but you are protecting yourself. You're lifting yourself up off that left leg now. You're not hyperextending that knee, always keeping it nice and bent, and you're pressing through those heels, lifting that right side on top of the left. And then you are playing around with coming into the what is this, like reverse half moon? Kind of. So press through that heel. Keep those hips square. Lift that left side, but keep that shoulder blade engaged. Oops, you don't lift as high, but it's better for support. All right, come into that standing split just because you can. And it's just messing with your center of gravity just a little bit more. And then you are bending that left leg and you're letting those right toes come down. You're in that runner's lunge to step back and move through a flow. Noticing how your body feels. Being in that downward dog for 2 to 3 breaths, and then once again, resting down in your child, letting yourself get all of the benefits. Inhale and exhale. Make sure you're drinking your water. And then we've worked all that oxygenated blood. If you want to bring cushion to your knees, take time to do that. You're either going to come through downward dog or table. It doesn't matter to come into, and it's going to be a knee down runner's lunge. So if you come through downward dog, you're going to bring that back knee down. You're coming with that right foot and that left knee on railroad tracks. And then let yourself find that stretch where you are, it's like a little pinch in your right side as you let that left side stretch open. So here is where you are playing around with both of those sides. You're still engaging, but both sides are getting a little bit different because of the way your legs are. Inhale and exhale. And then play around with pressing back to get that length here. Use those blocks. Don't put a lot of weight. I like to also move that leg around at that hip. And so then move side to side a couple times. And then pause in that runner's lunge with that right knee over that right ankle. Bring that right arm into the inside of that right leg. And then let yourself pause in this elbow down stretch. If you don't want to come all the way down, this is like called crocodile or alligator. You can use blocks and just keep your hands on the blocks and keep pulling that right knee towards your right arm. You're doing that no matter what. Inhale and exhale. If you want to practice coming into your split, or practice coming into your split, you don't have to do anything too serious. Woo. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. And then let's just practice. We're moving into that pigeon, half pigeon. So let that right knee come towards the right hand, that right foot come towards the left hand, and then you're staying square as you bend, or as you curl those left toes to send that left leg back. Remember, your low back, it's in vacation mode. This is all, what's happening is all in that hip girdle, and then you are lengthening from that hip girdle. Stay with your breath. Inhale and exhale. Try to keep activating both your right leg and your left leg from the glute. Keep flexing that right foot and even press down the pinky toe side of that foot into the mat. And this is one of those things, if this pose just does not feel good, you can even like put stuff underneath your right side so you don't dump down. But if this is just not accessible, there are many ways to do pigeon. There's seated pigeon, and then there's also reclining pigeon. And you can get the same benefit. So hopefully you know how to protect yourself. Inhaling. It took me a long time to find it though, but that you're holding yourself in that lower girdle, lifting that low back. This is an easy one to tweak your low back, and I do not want you to hurt yourself. Let those breaths be full and deep. And then you're going to go into a reset position, whether it be up in a downward dog, where you curl those left toes, and then send that right leg up into that three-legged dog, or maybe you come into three-legged table. Inhaling and exhaling, you pause in a downward dog or a table. You're going to decide how you're going to bring that left leg forward. Doesn't matter what it looks like, how that happens. It's always up to you, but line yourself up so you're on railroad tracks with that right knee, left foot, and keeping your trunk square to the front of your space and the back of your space. Let yourself come into that full forward lunge. I'm going to call it forward since we're coming forward. Inhale and exhale. And then, I don't know what we call this, backward lunge? No, press back lunge? Maybe it's not even a lunge. You are still keeping your hips square. You are not hurting this knee. If you want to do a little bit of that flossing where you're letting that leg turn in that hip, it just adds a little bit extra. And then let yourself come forward and make sure that you are supported. To bring that left arm into the inside of that left leg, and you're keeping that left knee pulled into that left arm. You do not have to come down to the elbows. It doesn't have to happen. Scoot that right knee back to get a little bit more pulled, to get a little bit more opening so you can come down. You're, of course, in charge. The right leg and left leg are still on railroad tracks. And then, if you want to play around with doing a little bit of a little split on this side, make sure that you are protecting yourself. Woo. Inhaling and exhaling. This is all in the lower girdle, not the low back. You keep trying to square. And then we're going into that half pigeon on the left. So the left foot walks over to the right hand. The left knee comes down by the left hand. And then you curl those right toes to move that right leg back. Find your position. You can even take a gander back at that right leg. Make sure it is right out from that hip and the top of the right knee is on the ground and you feel it dragging, and that drag is important. That's that engagement. Remember, you can put a blanket or a block so you don't dump down, and then you breathe. Inhaling and exhaling, staying with your breath. Always with your breath. You're being kind, compassionate with yourself. You are being the observer, the witness. And then you're going to decide how you want to come out of this posture. Maybe it looks very similar to what you did on the other side. Maybe it looks completely different. That is what the magic of yoga. So I'm actually going to have mine look completely different as I bring myself down and then bring those legs around, and then I'm going to find myself on my back for a few breaths. Make sure that you find, when you get down there, that you are protecting yourself. So you are keeping those girdles engaged. Keep those knees bent. Keep trying to smear yourself as wide as you can. Keep trying to let yourself be heavy, like you're sinking into the mat. And move those legs how it feels good. Only lifting those feet up off the ground if that's something that serves you, because maybe that doesn't feel good. But if it does, let yourself rock and circle and roll on that sacrum. Keep opening your whole body up to the sky as you let that front body stay square to the above you, and that back body is square to behind you. Your glutes are always heavy. All right, bring those feet down on the ground. If you did have them up, and then hands down by your sides, engage that pelvic tilt. So I'm doing that pelvic tilt, and I'm pulling that clock in that place of where it is in that place of evenness. 12 is your navel, 6 is your pubic bone, 9 and 3 are right where your legs are coming into your trunk, your hip flexors. So you're in charge of bringing that into a place of support, keeping it in a place of support as you lift into your bridge and lower and lift a few times, inhaling and exhaling. You can pause, of course, roll those shoulders under or not. Find the activate underneath the ball and at the ball of your foot, right underneath your big toes and your little toes, all your toes actually, and then keeping that tail tilted in that pelvic tilt. Lower down one vertebrae at a time, and then when you get down, let yourself move, rock, circle, however feels good. Arms come out to the side. Doesn't matter how your legs are, whether the feet are up or down. Doesn't matter where your gaze is. Let your knees go to the left. Keep that right arm connected to the mat. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath and how you feel. Lift those legs. Same thing, other side. Try to stay heavy as you drop to the other side. So try not to lift up off the floor. Keep that anchored in. You're always trying to rotate your heart and your navel away from each other. And then back onto your back to maybe move through your happy baby or any other pose that would feel good to you. Even if it is not yoga, it is just something that you enjoy. Take the time to do that. And if you have some time here, find yourself in relaxation for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, or sit in meditation for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, and you will reap all of the benefits. So thank you so much for joining me. Take care.